Hello and welcome to my first episode of Carl's Tech Shed. I'm Carl, and in this episode I'll just be giving you a small demonstration of some of the equipment I've got out here. Okay, so we'll start over here. Here we've got my Apple PowerMac G5. I'll tell you what, I'll power these on one by one so you can see them booting up. It's got a PowerMac G5. Then over here on these three monitors I've got my server, which is a where did I get this from? I think it's a Viglen LX260, which is a single Xeon 2.8 with the half meg level 2 cache. I'll power that on now. That's actually got 6 hard drives in SCSI, 6 SCSI drives which are 80 pin. I've got them striped. Then up the top here I've just got a single 80 gig IDE drive from which it boots from. So I'll power these monitors on one by one. Now over here I've just got my little what's this, a Compact Desk Pro. This is just a P3 500 768 megs of RAM. It's got 2 hard drives in there, one of which holds Windows 98 of all operating systems. I find it's very good for old systems like DOS, or using it as a dumb terminal, for which I'm about to show you in a moment. So yeah, that's got 2 hard drives, just got a 4.3 gig and it's got an 80 gig in there. Sorry, I think sorry, 40 gigs I've got in there as well. Just power this one up. This is the monitor for the 98, which actually came with it. That's a compact V55. It's just a 15-inch CRT. As you can see, the Apple Mac's booted up already. Let's just close that down. The server's still booting up. The Windows 98 machine is... where are you? There you are. Maybe I didn't press it hard enough. Well, the Windows 98 machine will be booting up soon. You might be wondering why this monitor isn't coming on yet, even though it's attached to the server. The reason for that is because that's on a separate graphics card. I've got 2 graphics cards in there. One of them is dual output, one of them is single output. That's I think it's an FX 5200 for these two, and it's something like I think it's an old ATI Rage for this one. I don't use it for gaming, I just use it for diagnostics, things like that. Let's see the old 98 ones booting up. I've still got the Windows 98 CD-ROM in there, so that's why it's bringing up that menu. Right, so over here I've got 2 ATL P1000 tape libraries. I've got one there and I've got another one under there. They're both DLT 7000. I'll power this on only for a moment because they make one hell of a lot of noise. I'll go through these in more detail in another video. It's not so noisy at the moment, but it's when it actually gets powered up. Okay, so that's the ATL system. As I said, I will go into more detail on that one in a later video. As I say, I've got 2 of those. That one down there, actually, all the tape drives in that one are faulty, so I've got to swap some out of there to pop in the bottom one. One thing I may have missed is actually this Panasonic Ag 7350 VCR. Well, it's actually an SVHS studio recorder. It plays all formats. It plays plays NTSC, it plays PAL, it plays CCAM. It does just about everything. You can connect it up to the PC via RS232 on the back. Hang on. Under here you've got all the little controls there for different settings. I don't think I've hardly ever used any of these settings, but it's handy knowing that they're there. And okay, so finally in the corner here we've got, oh, this is a beast. This is my Brees Hill Q47 system. Now this is another tape library. It's a little bit dark. Hang on, let me just see if I can get a torch on here. Won't be a moment. Right, now as you can see in there, that's it's actually a carousel of tapes, so you can, it turns round. I haven't actually got this plugged in at the moment because I've got the ATL systems which are running, but you see it's got 3 tape drives. There's one there and 2 at the bottom, just there, and the arm is just there. This actually moves up and down here vertically, and then it selects the tape from the carousel over there. The control panel's just there, but like I said, I haven't got that plugged into anything at the moment. Right, now this is just a start on this shelf. I've just got a load of spare parts. I've got an old 5 1/4 floppy, I've got some CD and DVD drives, I've got a load of hard drives there, I've got some old SCSI drives, these are a couple of brand new, I think they're 500 gig IDE drives if I remember rightly. What are they? Yeah, 500 gig. I can't remember if these are IDE or SATA. Oh no, they're SATA. So I haven't worked out what to do with them yet. But they're brand new. I haven't even taken them out of the box yet. There's a pair of them, so I'll probably put them into a RAID system or something like that. Along here I've just got, let's have a look, I've just got a box of old radio parts up there. I just use them for spare parts if I need a resistor or transistor or little capacitor or something. In there's just the spare bulb for my projector. Up here is just some old videotapes I was ripping. Just got some games here that I very rarely play, but they're still there. That's actually my, well, was my main camcorder until the damn thing packed up. First the screen went, it'll only work when you leave it flat like that, which isn't much good, which was a bit inconvenient, but I could still use the eyepiece. But then about a week ago the tape drive packed up. It gave me a C3123 error, which basically it's out of warranty, so Sony don't want to touch it. So that's £600 worth of camera down the drain. I've just got a, oh yeah, this is one of my graphics cards. I've got to repair this actually. It's a 3DFX Voodoo 5 5000, which is quite rare nowadays, but if you look just there, just here, it's got a capacitor missing, so I've just got to solder this back on when I get time. Other than that, it'll be a fantastic little card for my 98 system when it's going. What we got here, yeah, it's just my e-reader. I mainly just use that for manuals. So yeah, that's just all my junk up top there. So we'll move over here. This is again just a big mess of junk. Under here I've got another one of those VCRs, but I think the head needs cleaning on that one, so I'm not using that at the moment. Under here is actually a Tatung Einstein TC01, which is perfectly, it works absolutely perfectly. There's nothing wrong with it. I've got bags and bags of software for it. I'll have to get that set up at some point. In here is just more tapes for the tape libraries, because despite having 3 tape libraries, I still can't fit them all in. I actually bought these off a guy on eBay up in Buckinghamshire, because he was clearing out his old computer shop and had all of these tape drives. Well, he had the Q47 in the corner, and he had a much larger unit which he already scrapped, so I took the tape drives from both of them. Okay, so in here I've just got, what have I got here? Just, yeah, these top drawers are a bit of a mess really. Yeah, there's no real, if I don't know what to do, so I'll just chuck it in there. Here I've just got loads of power cables for laptops, PCs, you name it. SCSI cables, SATA cables, IDE cables, any internal computer cables go in there. got external cables here. I've just got USBs, DVI, an external SCSI. What's this? I think it's a Firewire. Yeah, it's a Firewire cable. And let's have a look. In the bottom, it's just AV cables. This is a few SCART leads, and PlayStation controller, that sort of thing. Now over here it gets a little bit more interesting because I've got what have I got here? Yeah, I've got some motherboards and bits and pieces down the bottom. This is actually a box of old radio valves that I can't remember where I got these, but I just haven't had the heart to throw them out because some of them are quite interesting. I don't know where they've come from, but I can only guess they're from radios, amplifiers, that sort of thing. But it's sort of a work of art in a way. I don't really want to throw them out, even though I've got absolutely no use for them. Right, we've got an old PlayStation back there. This is actually the sound system I'm using at the moment, which is connected to the PC via that little white cable up there. Runs into the PC. It's an old E-machines which I think I've stripped out for parts. There's just a power supply and a floppy drive left in it. Got a DVD recorder there I've got to fix at some point. Case of various CDs and DVDs. These are my two boxes of parts which I'll probably go through in more detail in a later video, but I've got some really common stuff from, you know, network cards and that, right up to the really unusual, even some old stuff. I mean, I've got this here, it's a ISA half meg VGA card from, what is it, 1992, so that's what, nearly 20 years old, and the chances are if I stuck that in a machine it'd probably work straight away. Got some, what I've got here, I've got some SCSI cards, that would have been used for a scanner at some point. I've got a, I don't know what that is, probably for a CCTV unit or something. Got an ATI graphics card, I think that was in my old PC a few years ago. Now I've just got some, what's that, a PCI Express sound card. Yes, that's just a usual sort of, just sort of thrown in there sort of thing. I'm not really too worried about any of it. Here I've got this was actually in the server when I bought it, but I decided to replace it with some DVD drives. It's a Sony Advanced Intelligent Tape 2 drive, which I think, well, I didn't have any tapes for it, but I think it holds about 40 gigs, something like that. What have we got here? I've got loads of motherboards in the house I've got to bring out here, but this is actually quite an odd one because it's got AGP Pro, which didn't really take off because PCI Express came out very soon after. But the reason I kept it is because it's got two socket 462 slot. It's got two 462 sockets, which means you can put dual AMD Athlons or something like that on there. And it's also got IDE RAID, which would come in very handy. But yeah, so that's pretty much all I've got at the moment. And in a moment I'll show you my PCs once they've booted up. Okay, now all the systems have booted up, so we already had the Apple Mac, but now I've got my free monitor server which is booted up. Well, I call it a server, but I'm not running any websites or anything from it. It was sold to me as a server by a company on eBay. I think I only paid about a tenner for it. I had to go and pick it up from Edmonton in North London, but there was no hard drives, no DVD drive, no nothing. It was just the AIT drive. I think it had a ½ gig RAM, but I've ranked that up to, I think I'll have to find out how much I've got in here. I think I've got about 3 gigs of RAM in this, but it's quite a nice system really. Let's have a look. I'll show you all the specs on all of these in a moment. Yes, that's a single Xeon 2.8 and I've got 3 gigs of RAM in that. So Windows XP running on that one. And I've got, I'll show you the specs on this one. This is only a Power Mac, it's not a Mac Pro. If some of you think it is, it's not. It's just a Power PC G5. But that's got 3.5 gigs of RAM. It's running the latest version of OS X that you can get for the PowerPC, the 10.5.8. That's got I've got 2 hard drives in that. It came with the original 160 gig, but I've also installed a 1 terabyte drive, which I use for holding all my video editing software on. As you can see up there, hang on. Yeah, you can't really see it that well, but I can assure you there are 2 hard drives in there. There's one on the top, which is the 160 gig, and then the one on the bottom is the 1 terabyte. It's just the bog standard. I won't take all of that off, but it's just the standard setup in there. It's just a normal, I think it's 128 meg or something like that, the graphics card, which it came with. There's no other expansion cards in there other than the Firewire 800, which I was using at one point for an external hard drive I used to own. I just haven't bothered taking it out. On top there is my Gigabit Router, which relays the Ethernet cable back to the house. Well, it's actually plugged into one of these little Powerline Comtrend adapters, but in the next couple of weeks I hope to run a full Cat6 gigabit connection down to the house, because it's intolerably slow sometimes. Here I've got the 4 satellite inputs, which is actually connecting into the server. I've got to set this up yet because all I can get is foreign channels. I've got about 600 channels on there, and every single one of them is in a foreign language. But there's the satellite out there. Sorry, the window's a bit dirty, but there's the satellite. It's just running a bit. It's just running a bit like a 3-legged horse at the moment because I can't get any channels on it. But yeah, so that's the main system I've got there. Then up on the 98 system, as I said, this is just there's nothing special really. It's just a P3 500 with 768 megs of RAM. It's a nice little system. I think I bought that at a car boot sale. I think the whole thing, the system, the monitor, had a keyboard and mouse for it, but I don't know where they went. But I paid I think about £4 or £5 for the whole thing. Just upgraded the RAM on it and installed 98 back onto it because some muppet had tried to stick Windows Vista on it, and it was running so slow it would barely boot up, so I just restored it to its native Windows 98. But I'll show you the sort of drives I've got on here. As I said, I've got 6 SCSI drives. A couple of these are rated up in the BIOS, but then some of these I've actually got striped through. I've got them striped through Windows. So I've got the 136. I've got the two well, it says 136, but they're actually 146 SCSI drives. I've got a pair of those, but they're both running as a stripe. So if we go into G drive, I'll show you. I said this is all the same system, it's just on 3 monitors. I'll show you the speed that I'm getting on these SCSI drives, and I think I reached about 170 megs a second on one of these. It's that one there. If we start, you'll see this is not bits per second, it's actually bytes. If we convert it to bits, then it's like 1.3 gigabit. But I'll show you how many megabytes per second I'm actually getting on these old hard drives. Down the corner there, you'll see it's 166 megabytes per second reading from these drives. Now, if I stop that, and I'll show you what it's like on bits. To give you an idea, it's actually about 1.2, 1.3 gigabits, so it's actually 30% faster than a gigabit Ethernet connection in that sense. The only reason it's running so fast is because they're striped. If I just select an individual drive, these run at about half the speed, something like that. See, I'm only getting 600 megabits, that's bits per second, so if we convert that into bytes, you're only looking at about 70 or 80 megabytes per second. So you can see there's a huge speed difference between striping the drives and leaving them as they are. And with striping, you don't get any, you don't sacrifice any drive size, you don't sacrifice any space whatsoever, because what it actually does is it takes the 2 drives here, the 2 top ones, and it'll write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So everything that's coming into the drive is much faster. Okay, so some of the applications I've got on the Mac, it's just most of it's bog standard, and I've got the iTunes, iPhoto, iMovie, I've got a Final Cut Pro on there, iDVD, GarageBand, iWeb, Photoshop, CS4. I can't get CS5 to run on the PowerPC architecture, so I've had to leave it at CS4. Time Machine. I've also got Toast Titanium on there just for burning CDs and that. That's just got Skype, Keynote, TurboCAD Pro. I'm sort of having a play around with that at the moment, see what I can do with it. All the boring stuff up there. I've also got Folding at Home on there, which is, it's a scientific computation program, but it doesn't really run that well on the G5 because it's only a single processor, so I've sort of just left that dormant. Good old BitTorrent. Yeah, as you'll see, the storage I've got up here, this is the 1 terabyte drive I've got. Hang on 2 seconds. There we go. There, 931 gigs. Well, it's 1 terabyte, but you always lose a bit in formatting. So that's the 1 terabyte drive, and then the G5 drive is just the bog standard 160 that it came with. Okay, well that's pretty much everything I've got in here. I'll be showing you these tape drives in a later video. These two are actually connected up to the server, but the Breeze Hill one in the corner there, I'll have to figure out how to get that into the 98 system, because I haven't got any more PCI slots on the server anymore. So what it is, these two actually run on LVD SCSI, or low voltage differential, which I've got a SCSI card in there which supports that, but then the Breeze Hill one runs on HVD, which is high voltage differential, which means that the two are completely incompatible. If you try and connect them up, you'll just find that either the SCSI card shuts off, or the system will shut off, or something like that. I mean, I haven't tried it because I don't want to risk it, but people are saying that it could damage it, and I mean, not that it's worth anything. I think I only paid about £10 or £20 for that a few months ago, but I just don't want to mess anything up for the sake of trying something. One other thing I've got here is what is it? Dell Poweredge 2450. It's got dual P3 processors in there. I'm going to have to get that set up at some point, see what I can do with it. Okay, well that was my Tech Shed Part 1, and I'll be releasing another video soon, so thanks for watching.